Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vincent Shepard. For those of you who don't recognize the voice, I hope everyone is having a wonderful afternoon, and I appreciate the fact that you are joining the call. This actually should only take about 25, 30 minutes out of your afternoon, so I will hopefully give you the gift of a little bit of time back, but we wanted to make sure we had allocated enough time for this subject. Today's conference is about the new Teleperformance Code of Ethics that is being rolled out around the world. And so today what we're going to do is sort of take you through the new Code of Ethics, the reasons why we have developed a global Code of Ethics, the actual content of the Code of Ethics, as well as the launch plan for the various business units around the world. And I'm hoping that if the other folks on the HR team have been doing the things that we've asked them to do, that this is not the first time that you've heard about the Teleperformance Code of Ethics. So let us get started. The actual official worldwide launch of the Code of Ethics was in September of 2013. And so we are at sort of the EWOP, really the beginning of the EWOP launch of this particular Code of Ethics. And one of the steps that we committed to as a business unit was that for every employee in EWOP that was at a director or above level, that we would invite individuals to 3 conference calls at varying times so that we could go through the Code of Ethics in sort of via video conference, make sure that everyone thoroughly understood the Code of Ethics, and given everyone at a director and above level an opportunity to ask any questions and give us any feedback about both the code itself as well as the layout. So that's what we're doing. So the first question you might have is, why as an organization do we need a Code of Ethics? We all, I think, wake up every morning with the intention of doing the right thing, making the right choices. So why is it necessary to sort of put this down in pen and paper, or put pen to paper and put this down as a policy statement? And some of the reasons are listed here in this first slide, which is, one, we want to develop a consistent set of expectations around the world for how we interact with our various constituencies. Cultures are different, people are different, work environments are different, but we want it to, as an organization, have a consistent way of operating with all of our various stakeholders. We also wanted to, with this new Code of Ethics, provide some means or feedback mechanism for employees to the extent that they believe or that there have been ethical violations, or to the extent that they personally have ethical concerns. So those are really the sort of driving reasons for a Code of Ethics. One, consistent set of expectations that we reduce to writing. Two, to make sure that those expectations were being met as we interacted with each of the constituency groups that we interact with as a company. And three, to formally provide an opportunity or a mechanism for individuals who believe that they have an ethical concern to report those ethical concerns. And I know that particularly for those of you who have worked on various proposals that we've done, it's actually one of the things that our clients and our potential clients have asked for. The next slide, and this current slide, is really a slide around why, in general, would you want to have a code of ethics, and it includes a number of quotes from individuals I'm sure you've all heard of around the importance of having a set of ethics or a set of ethical behaviors. So with that as sort of the backdrop, let's talk about the Code of Ethics itself. As I mentioned earlier, or I may have mentioned earlier, this Code of Ethics was actually developed at the group level by the Corporate Social Responsibility Committee. They developed this Code of Ethics and took into account, I think, all of our various, or attempted to take into account, all of our various cultures, all of our various languages, all of our various sets of beliefs as they put together this code. The Corporate Social Responsibility Committee believes, and as an organization we believe, that we need to set for ourselves as well as those vendors and suppliers and other constituencies that we interact with a high set of ethical principles. And they believe that these principles should be consistently applied in order to ensure that we are honest, fair, that we treat people equally, and that we treat individuals with basic human decency in an environment that is transparent. So that is sort of the overarching set of beliefs or drivers by the CSR committee which led to this Code of Ethics. So let's talk about the code itself. Again, the objective of the code is to clearly define our rules, our conducts, our actions, our behaviors, and our relationships that we have with all of our constituency groups, whether it's employees, service providers, vendors, clients, customers, in the communities in which we employ people and operate, our relationships with the media, our relationships with public and regulatory agencies, as well as our relationships with nonprofit organizations where we give back to the communities that we operate in, as well as the relationships that we have with our shareholders as a public company. It's also our intent with this Code of Ethics that Teleperformance makes a positive contribution into each of the communities in which we operate and with each of the groups with which we operate and interact with. So let's talk, first of all, about, how does this Code of Ethics align with our culture and with our values? And the CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility Committee, believes that there is positive and great alignment between this Code of Ethics and our culture as an organization. So this Code of Ethics is reflective of our principles of integrity, respect, professionalism, innovation, and commitment. And this Code of Ethics also reflects our diversity, whether it be among our employees or whether it be among the other folks that we interact with. So again, the code is reflective of our values, and it also is reflective of the diversity of the individuals whom we employ at Teleperformance. Let's talk specifically about the relationships. And let's start first with our relationships with our clients. And the first principle of the Code of Ethics is all of our clients are to be treated with respect, with a true consideration in terms of our transparency, and with a sense of partnership. So the idea here is that we're respectful of our clients, that we give them a view into our organization that is transparent, and that we operate as a partner with our clients. The second principle in terms of our relationships with our clients recognizes the importance that we place on protecting the confidentiality of our clients' information as well as our own information. And then lastly, in terms of the relationships with our clients, all of our clients are to be treated on the same business basis, i.e., we don't have favorites. We don't choose to have harsher terms for some clients than other clients. So again, in terms of clients, we're respectful, we're open, we take great care to protect confidential information, and that we treat all of our clients on the same basis and in a way that is consistent with this code. Let's talk next about our relationships with our employees. Again, the first principle is that we provide equal career opportunities. And again, as all of you are aware, not only is that consistent with this particular code of ethics, it's also frankly required by the laws in most of the jurisdictions in which we operate. So this is, again, yet another reason for being compliant and for making sure that we're providing equal career opportunities without regard to, race, sex, national origin, sexual orientation, age, disability, or religion. So all of the various sort of protected groups, as we like to call them in the HR profession, to make sure that we are equal and above board. Also, relative to our relationships with our employees is we are committing to provide a safe and healthy work environment. And again, for those of you who are probably much more familiar than I am with all the work that happens around the standards relative to our physical environment, that is a part of this code of ethics. And then finally, our relationships with our employees are to be based on both trust as well as loyalty, that we treat our employees in a fashion that shows trust of our employees and shows that our employees can also trust us. So that really is an overview of the expectations of the Code of Conduct relative to the relationships that we have with our employees. So let's look next at the relationships with our investors and shareholders or stockholders. The first commitment that we make is that we will be transparent and accurate and truthful when we're communicating with the investment community as well as with our shareholders. The second principle is that we will be in compliance with all local, state, federal, and from my Canadian colleagues, provincial regulations. So that's the second sort of principle here, in terms of our relationship with our investors and stockholders, our shareholders. And lastly, as you guys are all aware, we're a publicly held corporation. So our corporate finance team makes sure that we as a corporation are always in compliance with whatever the appropriate corporate governance standards might be. And then lastly, the relationships with our competitors. And what we say about this, or the basic principle about this, is we want to win, but we also want to win based on being fair, being ethical, and making sure that our practices are appropriate and that our practices relative to winning business and getting business practices are in fact ethical. So again, the Code of Ethics spells out how we interact with our competitors in the market, how we interact with our investors and shareholders, how we interact with our employees, and how we interact with our clients. So, let's talk specifically, and lastly, with nextly, with how do we interact with our vendors and with our partners. And again, those relationships are characterized by the same principle. That is, we are open, we're ethical in both our interactions with vendors as well as suppliers, and that we expect that those vendors and suppliers that we have a relationship with operate just as we do. And I know just from the little bit of time that I have here, I know other reporting that even from an HR perspective, we do for companies like Microsoft, who have taken this same approach in terms of having their suppliers and vendors operate in a fashion that is consistent with their particular code of ethics. And then lastly, in terms of how we operate in the various communities in which we work and employ people, again, we try to be a good corporate citizen, and we try through our giving, through our volunteering, through all the things that we do in the various communities that we are in, to reflect the highest ethical standards. So that is, in a nutshell, the Code of Ethics. And again, it describes, how we interact with each of the groups that we come across in our day-to-day business. So let's talk about the launch itself, and this will be pretty quick. Again, there was a global launch that was done by the Corporate Social Responsibility Committee back in September to sort of go through at a high level with a number of us the content of the Code of Ethics and to explain the importance of the Code of Ethics and to get feedback around the launch of the Code of Ethics. There was time taken to take the Code of Ethics and translate it into all of the various languages that we speak around the world, and we did do that. And then really the next sort of step in the process is the actual launch itself, which we are doing throughout the various business units. As I mentioned earlier, we are doing these webinars with all of the directors and above. We have developed and I believe are in the process of distributing posters, which take the Code of Ethics and sort of consolidate it down to a single poster, and those posters will be going up at all of our various locations, and those posters will include how to include the content that we've discussed here, as well as how to report any ethical concerns that individuals might have. And then for the manager and the low population, I know that we are doing face-to-face meetings for the managers, supervisors, ACCMs in the various locations around EWOP. I think because of, or not I think, I know, because of call volume demands, we're taking a slightly different approach with our agents in that we have developed talking points which will be covered by supervisors and either individually or in small group meetings. We have also developed a CCMS communication for each employee around the Code of Ethics. So that is sort of how we are attempting to cascade this Code of Ethics policy throughout EWOP. Lastly, with everything else, like everything else in life, there will be tracking and checking that will be taking place, and the tracking will largely be the responsibility of the folks in the corporate or group level. But there will be a need for us to show that either people like you participated in conference calls and webinars, and or people participated in small group meetings, and or individual employees have signed off on the policy in CCMS. So we will be monitored and checked in terms of whether or not we completed the activities that we were supposed to complete within EWOP. And then in addition to sort of the routine tracking, we should know that, I think as we go through our next round of both ESAT and KSAT surveys, there is an expectation that we will have improvement in those surveys based on sort of the dissemination of the Code of Ethics within EWOP. There's expectation that people will be knowledgeable of the Code of Ethics and feel better about their relationships with the company. Last but not least, if you would like more information regarding the Code of Ethics, there is a spot on the My Teleperformance site where the Code of Ethics is, as well as the launch plan, is spelled out in more detail, and also, I believe, based on comments from the last set of participants we had on these calls, Paul is going to be kind enough to send each one of you a copy of this presentation so that you can have it, as well as you have the ability, obviously, to share it with your teams. So with that, I will open it up to any questions you might have. And as usual, with such a large group of shy, retiring people, we have no questions. So I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy afternoons to listen to the presentation. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to send them my way. And otherwise, I will give you the gift of time, and thank you very much for participating. Take care.